Last week, we were discussing from chapter 4, wherein we discussed about the perfection of Nabi. Nabi had the Supreme Lord as his own son, as per his desire, and then he raised him very nicely. He treated him very nicely, took care of him very nicely, and experienced the happiness of parent of the Supreme Lord. And having given the kingdom to Rushaba, he went to Himalayas, performed austerities, and went back to Godhead. And Lord Rushabadeva, in order to set an ideal example, he went to Gurukul, studied nicely, gave Guru Dakshina, came home, married, and ruled over the kingdom very nicely. And through his wife, he begot 100 very nice, powerful sons. And he also performed 100 Ashwamedha Yajnas for the welfare of the entire country and citizens. So all these wonderful things are mentioned. Now it is the right time for Lord Rushabadeva to take on to Vanaprastha life renunciation. So just before that, Lord Rishabha is teaching the final instructions to his 100 sons, and they are mentioned in the chapter 5. Out of 35 verses or something like that, 27 verses are prayers. Very nice, powerful, very strong prayers. Even I don't have any qualification to speak about them. Very strong, but let us just read through and try to understand something if be possible. So, in the 5th chapter, having given instructions on Bhakti to Bhagavan, unto the Supreme Lord, unto his 100 sons and also to the citizens who assembled on the place known as Brahma Tirtha, in a place known as Bittur today. Lord Rushabadeva makes Bharata the king. Then he goes to the forest, having accepted Vanaprastha order, and shows the conduct of a dumb man. This is one of the purposes with which Lord appeared as Rushabadeva. In the beginning, we discussed in 3rd chapter. So, with this premise, so let's begin discussing chapter 5, one of the powerful chapter. After this, later on, we also see chapter 11, 10, 11, 12, or 11, 12, 13, 14. Also very technical and very powerful. We'll spend time on those chapters also. So about 35 verses are there. Till 27th verse, these are all prayers, and not prayers, instructions offered by Lord Rishabha to his 100 sons and citizens. And remaining verses talks about his Vanaprastha lifestyle. So in the previous chapter, at the end of the previous chapter, they mentioned that Lord Rushabadeva gave instructions to his 100 sons. So in order to establish the superlative position of Bhakti Yoga, Lord Rushabadeva first says that material enjoyment should not be practiced as the goal in life for a person with a human body. So for a person with a human body, for those people who want to attain highest perfection, should not use the material enjoyment as the purpose of life. So this is also mentioned in the very beginning of the first canto. If you remember a couple of verses in the 2nd chapter of the first canto, so they were mentioned that Dharmasya apavargasya narto arthayopakalpate nartasya dharmekantasya kamo labhaya smruta. And then kamasya nindriya priti ya labho jiveta yavata jivasa tattva vijnasa narto ichya karmavi. The human life is meant for tattva vijnasa. How to attain that? Shastra talks about purusharthas. Dharma should be performed for artha. Artha is accumulated to fulfill kama. सब होने के बाद मोक्ष के बारे में देखेंगे करके people say. But it says that dharma से ही apavargasya. Dharma should be performed only for the purpose of attaining apavarga, means moksha. And dharma should not be performed artha performed for artha. Even if one gains artha, that should only be used to attain moksha. The only one desire one should have is to attain moksha. That means dharma, artha, and kama, all these three should be directed towards moksha. These three are meant for moksha only, nothing else. So that is the motive. That is the background. With that background, Lord Rishabadeva will teach his 100 sons and also countrymen in this chapter in 27 verses. So let's begin with the first verse. Rushaba uvacha nayam deho deha bhajam nuloke kashtan kaman arahate vidbujam ye tapo divyam putra kayena satvam shuddhed yasmat brahma saukyam tu anantam.
Lord,
Yeah, read Mother.
Lord Rishabdev told his sons, "My dear boys, of all the living entities who have accepted material bodies in this world, one has been awarded this human form should not work hard day and night simply for sense gratification, which is available even for dogs and hogs that eat stool. One should engage in penance and austerity to attain the divine position of devotional service. By such activity, one's heart is purified, and when one attains this position, he attains eternal, blissful life, which is transcendental to material happiness and which continues forever."
Yeah, thank you. So this is here itself. Lord Rushabadeva starts with a very strong instruction, very strong words. Lord Rushabadeva says, Deha Bhajam, a living entity who is living in the human body, should not use one's human body for enjoying the objects which eventually give suffering. Kashtan Kaman. Okay, we work hard in order to fulfill our desires. Kashtan Kaman. But actually, the fulfillment of those desires eventually lead to misery only. You remember one verse comes in the 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita? Bhagavad Gita 5:22, I suppose. Anyone remembers?
It means that a person does not take part in the source of misery. It means something like that, which are due to uh, the material senses coming in contact.
Yes, yes. That was only. But
Yeah.
anyone remember the verse?
No, Prabhuji.
Ei sansparsaja bhoga dukka yone evate adi antavanta kaunteya nateshu ramate buddha. Matlab, intelligent person does not engage oneself in those activities whose happiness only has a beginning and end, which eventually lead to misery. So in that way. Same thing here. The jiva should not use one's human body for enjoying the objects which eventually give suffering only, and which are available even for the pigs, Vidbujamye. O sons, one should perform austerity for attaining the Lord, Tapo Divyam, Divya Tapasya, by which the heart becomes purified and which leads to infinite happiness in relation to the Supreme Lord. Similarly, in Bhagavad Gita also, chapter 4, text number 10. Anyone remembers what were the texts 9 and 10? Very important verses in the entire Bhagavad Gita. Chapter 4, text number 9 and 10.
Janma karma cha me divyam.
Pura shloka.
Janma karma cha me divyam ye ve yogi tattva kattva deham punarjanmam naiti ma vedi svasana.
Okay. Next shloka.
I don't remember.
Anyone else? Vitaraga Bayakroda Manmaya Mapashita Bhavo Jnana Tapasa Puta Madbhava Magata. The only way to go back home back to God is to know about the birth and activities of the Lord. Tatvataha. But those who understand Tatvataha, the birth and activities, Puta, they are completely purified. Madhva Magata. They will go back to spiritual world and they will attain the transcendental nature of the Supreme Lord. But what is the means of understanding the transcendental nature of birth and activities of the Lord? Tatvataha. The means is called Jnana Tapasa. It is an austerity of understanding about the birth and activities of the Supreme Lord. Jnana Tapasa. There, Lord Krishna uses Jnana Tapasa. Here, Lord Rushabadeva uses Tapo Divyam. That means Divya Tapasa. Transcendental Tapasya. One should perform the austerity for attaining the Lord. How to attain the Lord? By understanding about Lord's birth and activities to be transcendental. So whether Lord Krishna might call it as Jnana Tapasya, Lord Rushabadeva might be calling it as Divya Tapasya. That should be the principal activity of human life. So therefore, one should not have desires which give trouble, such as seeing or touching a woman or the object of sense gratification. Why? These desires are available even in the pig body. By enjoying material objects, the human body becomes equal to that of the pig. So these are like very strong instructions, easy to read and easy to say, but very difficult to practice. One should strive in the human body for what is not available in the pig body. So sense gratification is available in the pig body, but human life is not meant for just sense gratification, but for attaining the knowledge of the Supreme Lord. So in that way, austerity is the distinguishing characteristic of human. However, trees also perform austerity by not eating and tolerating the rain and sun. Therefore, such things are excluded by saying that this austerity is related to Supreme Lord. It is called spiritual austerity or tapo divyam. O sons, by this austerity the antakarana becomes purified. Shuddhyed yasmat sattvam. So it is said that, so tapo divyam putraga ena sattvam shuddhyed. By doing this divya tapasya, sattva becomes pure. Sattva means antakarana consisting of man, buddhi, ahankara and chetana. These four elements becomes purified by doing this tapasya. So that's what we are meant to do. Every day morning, getting up early in the morning, taking bath, attending morning program, starting from Mangalarti all the way up to Bhagavatam class, whatever way it is possible. So this is like big tapasya, and it is not like once in a while. It is every day. So that itself is a big tapasya. That should be the goal of life. So like this, so Lord Rushabadeva setting up the premise that human life is meant for Divya Tapasya, which will award one, which will bring one close to the Supreme Lord. Otherwise, one is bound in this material world. So Divya Tapasya, what all Divya Tapasya consists of? Now the rest of the chapter, open the means, open the understanding of Divya Tapasya. What do we mean by Divya Tapasya? How to do it? So such kind of understanding will be given in the remaining part of the chapter. Mahassevam dvaramahorvimuktes tamo dvaram yoshitam sangi sangam mahantaste samachitta pratanta vimanyava suhrudaha sadavoye.
One can attain the path of liberation from material bondage only by rendering service to highly advanced superior spiritual personalities. These personalities are impersonalists and devotees. Whether one wants to merge into the Lord's existence or wants to associate with the personality of God, one should render service to the Mahatmas. For those who are not interested in such activities, who associate with people fond of women and sex, the path to hell is wide open. The Mahatmas are equipoised. They do not see any difference between one living entity and another. They are very peaceful and are fully engaged in devotional service. They are devoid of anger and they work for the benefit of everyone. They do not behave in any abominable way. Such people are known as Mahatmas.
Yeah, thank you. So how we can attain, we can perform Divya Tapasya and attain the Lord by taking shelter of Mahatmas. So like that it goes. So here, if you remember Bhagavad Gita from our Bhakti Shastri course and teachings of Lord Kapila from Canto 3, we have discussed about various paths of perfection. Nishkama Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. They also have interdependence among them, etc. etc. So just kindly remember, recollect what we have discussed about all of them. So based on that, this particular verse and eventually the subsequent verses also presented. Basically, these teachings are not only meant for his devotee sons, which are also meant for the citizens and all the Brahmana community, which are among the citizens also. Not that everyone is completely uh, fully focused on bhakti completely, but others are also focused on varnashrama duties and interested in practicing jnana yoga, ashtanga yoga. So for their benefit also, for the benefit of devotees. So it's like all inclusive picture Lord Rushabadeva is giving here. So let us see from the point of view of all inclusive how Lord Rushabadeva is teaching his instructions. It said that service to saintly persons is the cause of two types of liberation. Vimukte, Vishesha Rupena Mukti. So Vimukti means, so Mukti means liberation. Vimukti means a special Mukti. Are also different variety of Muktis. So it's like that we can say. So whereas association with men who associate with women, Yoshitam Sangi Sangam is the cause of bondage. Tamodwaram. So association with Mahatmas is the cause of liberation. Association with those who are interested in sense gratification is the cause of bondage. So now, so bondage thing is there. It will be spoken later on, but liberation के बारे में हम चर्चा करेंगे आगे. The Brahmavadis, impersonalists. So here two types of liberations are there, na? So one category are Brahmavadis, other category of Bhaktas. So Brahmavadis get Sayujya Mukti and Bhaktas get Salokya, Sarishti, Samipya and Sarupya Muktis. So keeping that in mind, so it is like all inclusive picture, everything is presented. So what are the qualities of Brahmavadis? The Brahmavadis, the Brahmavadi impersonalist sees no difference and is peaceful. They do not see any difference among different living entities. The same thing we can see from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5, text number 18. Anyone remember what will be the vision of a Brahmavadi? From Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5, text number 18. Samachitta Prashanta. They don't see any difference. So this is the clue.
That only. I don't know.
Please tell me
Vidya
also. Full verse.
Vidya Sampade Brahmane Kavikatine Kuliteva Sopakita Pandita Samadhatmi.
That will be the quality of a perfected Brahmavadi. He will see no difference. He does not distinguish seeing the external coverings, external bodies. He tries to see the spirit soul situated behind the covering in the form of the external body. The qualities of the Brahmavadi impersonalists are they see no difference and they are peaceful. Whereas a devotee has a sincere art and his intelligence is fixed in the Supreme Lord. Thus, it becomes peaceful. Both types of saintly persons, both Brahmavadi and Bhakti devotee, are devoid of anger, Vimanyava, are friendly to all, Suhruda, and do not see faults in others, Sadhava. So these were the some of the important qualities of both Brahmavadis as well as devotees. So from the human body, one can gain deliverance or fall down. The cause for both lies in the human body. Human body, the vehicle by which we can go upward also, we can go downward also. As Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, Urdhvam gachin satvasa, madhya tishtanti rajasa, jaganna ganuruttisa, adho gachin tamata. That is there. And what else? Human body, their verses come in the 11th canto, I think. Hrudeha madhyam sulabham sudurlabham lavam sukalpam gurukarna dara. Mayanu kulena nabasvateritam puman bhavabdim nataret sa atmaha. The human body like the shootable boat, the spiritual master like the captain, and the instructions given in the Vedic literatures such as Bhakti and all are like the favorable winds. So taking the help of all these things, if one does not cross the Bhavasagar, they are simply killing the soul. So that is the understanding. So that's how the human body is the cause of both bondage and liberation.
Hare Krishna.
Mataji.
Prabhuji, from the verse number 2, like how means as a devotee, how far I'm not able to frame the question properly, but how much respect we should be giving to Mahatmas who are impersonalists? Because general, this is the first
See,
time.
wait. What do you mean by impersonalist? What is your understanding of impersonalist?
Those who reject the personal form of the Lord. And
No, that is the problem. That is the problem. I'm not talking about Mayavadis. Here we have clearly mentioned Brahmavadi. We have discussed this 100 times. Whether it is Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam does not even talk about Mayavadi anywhere. They only talk about Brahmavadis. Brahmavadi means he knows and understands the absolute truth exists in three features. But somehow or other, he developed favoritism towards Brahman. So they want to be with Brahman. They are called Brahmavadis. They do not reject Bhagavan. They do not reject Paramatma. But they want to be with Brahman. That's how they developed that favoritism. I told many times this example. All of you are in Maharashtra. Those who are born and brought up in Maharashtra. Which deity they like most?
Vittala.
Panduranga Vittal, obviously. Since childhood, they must have gone to Pandharpur many times every year, Wari and all. So it's natural. They like Vittala, like that. So since childhood, whatever we do, the kind of samskaras develop and we develop certain kind of attachments to a particular deity. So it is natural. So like that. Here, Brahmavadis are not at all condemnable. They are also practicing and they are also attaining perfection. It's like that.
So in spite of knowing everything, because see the example which we discussed, Prabhuji, like Lord Vitthal or whichever every state there may be some other form of the Lord, but still it is a supreme Lord they're worshipping.
Yes.
Here it is not the form of the Lord, but the effulgence of the Lord they are worshipping. Like they are more.
No, it is not like that. It is not like that. See, only thing somehow or other they did not develop attachment to serve the Lord in person. Instead, they want to meditate upon the Lord's nature, Lord's wonderful nature and all. So we may see that, okay, the Brahman means it has no attributes, no qualities. Of course, they are all there, but somehow or other they become attracted to it. It is not that they have rejected Bhagavan and Paramatma form. The example of Sukadeva Goswami, the example of four Kumaras, they are Brahmavadis. It doesn't mean that they are not devotees. Brahmavadi means they are Bhakti Mishra Jnanis and Bhakti Mishra Yogis. Their practice of Jnana and Yoga is a little bit more than Bhakti. Bhakti is less than 50%. Jnana practice, their attachment to practice Jnana or Yoga is more than 50%. That's how they become Brahmavadis. Okay, it is not that they are rejecting Bhakti or Bhagavan.
Those who aspire to go to Brahmajyoti, there are two distinct categories. One, what you mentioned is now like Yoga Mishra, Bhakti Mishra Yoga or Bhakti Mishra Jnana practitioners, and those who reject the personal form of the Lord, those who are out and out Mayavadis. So both of
Yes.
them aspire to go to Brahmajyoti, but their outlook towards the whole thing is different.
Yes, their outlook is different. After the two, one will go to Brahman, other will never go to Brahman. Mayavadi will never go to Brahman, but Brahmavadis, they definitely will go to Brahman.
So Mayavadis, they don't go to Brahman at all.
No,
And
they don't go it only.
where do they go?
Anya Arvindaksha Vimuktamanina Tvayashtabhavad Avishuddha Buddhaya Haruya Krichrena Param Padam Tata Anadruta Yushmadangraya. Even though they may think that they have attained perfection, but that so-called perfection say, वो नीचे गिर जाते हैं. They will never ever attain Sayuja. But Brahmavadis attain. Natat bhashete suryo na shashanko na pavaka yadgatva nivartante taddama paramam mama. Nirmana moha jitsanga dosha adhyatma nitya vinvrutta kama. Sangair vimukta sukadukka badvandvair vimukta sukadukka samnyer gachanta muda padamavayam tat. Padamavayam. Avya padam means Brahman. They will attain Brahman. ये भी है ना ब्रह्मभूता प्रसन्न आत्मा ना सोचति न कांक्षति समस्त सर्वेषु भूतेषु मद्भक्तिं लभते परम ततो माम तत्त्वतो ज्ञात्वा विशते तदंतरम. Vichati Tantaram means they enter into Brahman eventually.
Okay, so all those who are in the Brahmajyoti, none of them are Mayavadis. They are Brahmavadis.
No, they are all Brahmavadis, yes.
Okay, okay, thank you.
This we discussed 100 times from the beginning of our Bhagavatam.
Yeah, maybe sometime maybe I have missed it. Probably.
No, it is not about missing, but just because Srila Prabhupada does not elaborate talk about Brahmavadis so much. Whenever impersonalist means by default Prabhupada kind of bashes the Mayavadis. The bashing of Mayavadis only there all over our purports.
Yeah.
So in that way, so we don't give much attention to Brahmavadis so much. So that is the reason.
But Prabhuji, just because we're discussing one point, like what is the thing that attracts them in spite of knowing the personal form of the Lord, or yogis, they may be have seen the Paramatma form of the Lord also, but still they are more attached to Brahman, Brahmajyoti. Is there any reason?
It's a person's disposition, individual person's disposition, and the person's the likes and dislikes are developed based on one's upbringing and whatever one had heard more. So based on that, it has many factors. We cannot say one thing only. I mean, if I ask you a question, why would I like Radha Krishna more than Lord Matsya? Why you did not become Matsya's devotee? He is also Bhagavan only, na? And that is also personal worship, not even impersonal worship. Why you did not become attracted to Lord Matsya? Or Lord Kurma, or Lord Varaha, or Lord Ayagriva? Do you have any answer?
Because those devotees who are around me, they are all worshippers, and those who brought me, they are also worshippers of Radha Krishna. So whatever they gave knowledge, that is only not like that.
Same thing for them also. They are born and brought up in a family of Brahmavadis. They heard about it, they learnt about it, they developed attachment. Simple.
Yeah. Thank you.
Even for us also, I mean, trying to shift from Radha Krishna worship to some other worship, we think 1,000 times. So same way there also. But do we disrespect other avatars?
No, not at all, because they are lords.
Same way, they also do not disrespect the Bhagavan feature and Paramatma feature. They do worship Bhagavan feature, Paramatma feature, as and when the opportunity comes. But they are attached to Brahman.
Yeah.
So like that. Association with the saintly is the door to different types of liberation. It was mentioned in the previous verse that one attains the infinite happiness of Brahman. Brahma Saukyam tu Anantam. What kind of happiness one gets is what is described here. The Brahman has two types. impersonal Brahman and personal Brahman. Impersonal Brahman is Brahmajyoti and personal Brahman is Bhagavan. Thus, the word V indicates a variety of liberations. One is merging into Brahman, others becoming an associate of the Lord, having entered into Vaikuntha. So both are possible for a different variety of people. Mahanta also means two varieties of saints. One is worshippers of impersonal Brahman and the other is worshippers of Bhagavan. Their different qualities also described in double language. Samachitta means one who sees no difference and one whose heart is sincere. So for Brahmavadis, Samachitta means they do not see any difference like Vidya Vinaya Sampanne. For devotees, the heart is completely sincere. And Prashanta means one who is peaceful and the devotee whose intelligence is fixed in the Lord. For Brahmavadi, they are completely peaceful. For a devotee, their intelligence is completely fixed in the Lord. What was that verse? Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. So what Manmana, there it is there. And Bhagavad Gita 8th chapter text number 7. Anyone remember? Tasma sarveshu kaleshu ma manusmara yuddhacha mai arpita manobuddhir. Ma me vaishasya asanshayam. Mai arpita manobuddhir. One should offer one's mind and intelligence unto Supreme Lord. So that is Prashanta. So having offered ourselves completely to Supreme Lord, the immediate symptom is we become peaceful. As long as we do not offer ourselves to Supreme Lord, we remain in anxiety. That is the principle. Shamo manan nishta buddhe. Shama means intelligence fixed in me. Vimanyava, Suhruda, Sadhava have the same meaning for the Brahmavadis and for the devotee. Sadhava means those who do not see faults in others. So we say sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So sadhu means those who do not see faults in others. So that is the understanding. So like that, step by step, one by one, Lord Rushabadeva will be revealing everything. So next he further continues. The third verse about the importance of human body. Eva maishe krutasaurudartha janeshu damba janeshu dehambara vivartikeshu gurueshu jaya atmajarati mastu na priti yukta yavadartascha loke.
Those who are interested in reviving Krishna consciousness and increasing their love of Godhead do not like to do anything that is not related to Krishna. They are not interested in mingling with people who are busy maintaining their bodies, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. They are not attached to their homes, although they may be householders, nor are they attached to wives, children, friends, or wealth. At the same time, they are not indifferent to the execution of their duties. Such people are interested in collecting only enough money to keep the body and soul together.
Some distinguishing qualities between the two category of people. One who are attached to service to Bhagavan or Brahman, the other people who are attached to their body. So the distinctions are mentioned in this verse. The devotees have made their goal of life affection for me. Maya Krita Sahurudartha. Bas. The devotees have made their goal of life affection for me, the Lord, and do not show affection for persons who enjoy talks about people attached to eating and drinking, and who have houses, wives, sons, and wealth. They remain in their houses simply to spend their money on glorifying the Lord. Yavadartascha loke. So the two category of people are, one category of people who have affection for people who enjoy talks about the people attached to eating and drinking, Prajalpa, and who have attachment to house, wife, sons, and wealth from the material point of view. The other people, other category of people who have affection for the Supreme Lord and they remain in their own houses without being associating with the other people who are interested in these things, and simply they spend their time and money in the service of the Supreme Lord. This is for devotees. The extraordinary qualities of the second type of person are described. The second type of person are the devotees. The devotees have their goal, Preeti for me. So they have incomparable attachment for the Supreme Lord. They do not consider anything else as the goal of life. Sridhar Swami says, Ye va. The meaning of va indicates that the devotee is indifferent to everything else. They are not attached to those who enjoy living in discussing with persons attached to maintaining the body, with eating and drinking, who have houses with wives, children, and wealth. So why do the devotees remain in their homes? If one should not associate with the people who have attachment to houses, with wives, children, and wealth, then why should devotees stay in the house? Since they can perform bhakti such as serving the Lord's lotus feet, which requires wealth, by that wealth that they possess in a family life, they remain in their houses. It is not that devotees are staying in their house because they are attached to house. Instead, in order to serve the Lord, some wealth is required. So thus, they continue to stay in the homes in order to serve the Supreme Lord in his deity form. So like that. So these are like how to engage our human body. The human body, one side cause of the liberation, other side cause of bondage. So in these three verses, the human body and all the things associated with the human body should be employed in service of the Supreme Lord. That will open the doors to liberation, by which one experiences Ananta Sukha, Brahma Saukyam to Anantam eventually. So that was the whole this is actually the background. We are already human beings, we are in the human body. The human body can offer us this benediction. So for which we need to work upon Divya Tapasya, Tapo Divyam. So what is the Tapo Divyam? Why we have to do Tapo Divyam is mentioned now, and how we have to do will be revealed in the upcoming section, future verses. Hare Krishna, able to follow?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji, but I was thinking like here the way it was explained that Grihastha stay in the householder life because we required some vitta for serving the Lord. So whether I was just thinking, Prabhuji, like those who have dedicated their life completely for the Lord, they are serving 24 hours fully in that. But Grihastha will have to spend some money because he has a family, he has his wife or children or whatever. And some part of his money he will dedicate to the Lord's service, either in the home deity or temple deity. So whether both of them will be getting similar benefit or those who have dedicated fully will get more benefit. So then
what do you mean by what do you mean by fully dedication?
Like suppose somebody is brahmachari, he has given up his life for the Lord's service. So 20.
No, ऐसा कुछ नहीं होता है ब्रह्मचारी गृहस्थ ऐसा कुछ नहीं. It all external things only. There is no difference. You can't say brahmacharis are more attached than grihasthas. It is not like that. See, I'll give you an example. Every day you offer bhoga to the deities.
Yeah.
Then after offering bhoga, what do you do?
Feed everyone in the house prasadam.
Now, if you are fully dedicated, if you are only interested in Lord's satisfaction, should not take it back. You have given it to the Lord, that's all you should forget.
Yeah.
Are you getting?
But I'm not getting what you're trying to say.
See, I mean to say, there is nothing like that fully dedicated and half dedicated. The brahmachari, grihastha, these are all externals. They does not mean that okay, brahmacharis have given up everything, so they are fully dedicated. Not like that. There is nothing like that. Even the grihasthas are much more dedicated than brahmacharis in one sense. So don't see that, okay, brahmacharis are fully dedicated, grihasthas are not fully dedicated, not like that. Dedication is a activity of mind, not the external activity.
Yeah.
Whether it is brahmachari or grihastha, we cannot be fully dedicated. Fully dedication means living the lifestyle of Goswamis.
Yeah.
We are only situated where we are comfortable. That's all. Sometimes willingly, sometimes forcefully. It is not about fully dedicated or half dedicated. It has nothing to do with that. We are simply looking for our own comfort. In one sense. So don't think like that. So as long as our morning program is center of all our activities and everything that we do is enhancing or helping our practice of bhakti only. Going to office, working hard, or even in the temple doing other services here and there, everything, they're actually helping us or assisting us so that we'll be able to do our morning program properly. That is the main thing. Our sadhana is our morning program. All the rest of the activity that we do throughout the day should help us that we should be able to do next day morning program properly. That's all.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji.
So there is nothing like brahmacharis are fully dedicated. Fully dedication means living the life of Goswami, like Rupa Goswami, especially Raghunath Das Goswami. Like that, we can say fully dedicated. Otherwise, we cannot say fully dedicated. But we are trying to be as much as possible. So in that way, we have to see.
By full dedication, I meant, Prabhuji, that the more time is spent for the service of the Lord.
Nothing like that. Nothing like that. Oh, उसमें भी personal रहता है. ऐसा नहीं brahmachari 24 hours serving the Lord. ऐसा कुछ don't be in that illusion.
Okay.
So I cannot tell everything because you whatever respect you have for brahmacharis, it will go away. So brahmacharis also have their personal ambitions, personal motives. Don't worry.
Okay, Prabhuji.
नूनं प्रमत्त कुरुते विकर्म यदिन्द्रियप्रीतय आपृणोति न साधु मन्येत आत्मनोऽयम् असन् अपि क्लेशद आशदेहा.
When a person considers sense gratification the aim of life, he certainly
Little louder,
becomes
Roji.
mad. When a person considers sense gratification the aim of life, he certainly becomes mad after materialistic living and engages in all kinds of sinful activity. He does not know that due to his past misdeeds, he has already received a body which, although temporary, is the source of his blessing. Actually, the living entity should not have taken on a material body, but he has been awarded the material body for sense gratification. Therefore, I think it's not befitting an intelligent man if he involves himself again in the activities of sense gratification by which he perpetually gets material bodies one after another.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji. So here now continues to talk about conditions of transmigration. What happens to those who are attached to the things of this world? So some kind of understanding on that. And the rest of the chapter will talk about the process of liberation, process of perfection. The inattentive jiva becomes absorbed in actions for sense pleasure. Indriya pritaya apranoti. And thus engages in vikarma. Sense gratification means vikarma, by which one receives another body. So vikarma means repeated cycle of birth and death. That eventually gives dukkha, which eventually gives suffering, and which actually does not belong to the jiva at all. I do not consider such actions proper. Na sadhu manne. Yata atmanoyam. The activities such as vikarma and desires for sense pleasure and repeated suffering, they are actually incompatible with the nature of Atma. So doing those activities is like natural befitting the qualities of the Atma. So like that. That's why I said that na sadhu manne. I do not consider such actions as proper for Atma to do. So like that. Lord Rushabadeva had already stated that those persons who are attached to women fall down. He illustrates this and laments for those persons. Here, woman means any object of sense gratification. Don't see literally. Woman means basically the object of sense gratification. A man sees woman as woman. A woman sees man as woman. So for any gender, anything, any object is a cause of sense gratification is said like that. So in that way you should see. So Lord Rushabadeva illustrates this and laments for those persons. When a person acts for sense pleasure, he engages himself in sinful activities like enjoying others' wives. So enjoying something belongs to others, basically. It's like that. Because of previous sins, one attains the present body, which gives suffering in this life. And because of the present sins, we will attain another body in which we experience suffering. This cycle will continue like that. So with this body, one again performs sinful acts and then gets new body, experiences new miseries, again performs sinful acts, again gets new body like that. It goes on continuously. I do not consider this to be proper. This body does not actually belong to Jiva. Asan api atmanaha. The human body which is given to us, in reality does not belong to us. The Shruti says, Asangohi ayam purusha. The Jiva is not associated with the material body. The Atma, which is spiritual by nature, does not have any relationship with the material body, which is made up of three modes. But we feel that we are the body out of ignorance. So like that. So basically, the material sinful activities which are performed by this body are not at all compatible to the soul. Soul entirely belongs to a different realm only. So that's why I say that Nasadu Manne, I don't consider this to be proper. ये क्या चल रहा है इधर सब गड़बड़ ऐसा करके Lord Rushabadeva is telling. So basically, Ajnantavash, we are aspiring to get fulfill material desires. And in order to fulfill material desires, one performs sinful activities, as a result of which one is born in this material world in the cycle of repeated birth and deaths. So that's how one is born in this material world. So like that, it is indicated. So then what happens? क्या होता है इससे? पराभवस्तावदबोध जातो यावन्न जिज्ञासतयात्मतत्त्वं यावत् क्रियास्तावदिदं मनो वै कर्मात्मकं येन शरीरबन्धा.
As long as one does not inquire about the spiritual values of life, one is defeated and subjected to miseries arising from ignorance. Be it sinful or pious, karma has its resultant actions. If a person is engaged in any kind of karma, his mind is called karmatmaka, colored with fruitive activity. As long as the mind is impure, consciousness is unclear. And as long as one is absorbed in fruitive activity, he has to accept a material body.
Yeah, this is one interest verse. Prabhupada many times quotes this verse in his purports, many places. As long as the Jiva does not inquire about Atma, one remains in bondage created by ignorance. Jignasaya Atmatattvam. As long as one does not inquire about Atmatattvam, one remains in bondage, which is created by ignorance, avidya. As long as one performs pious and sinful activities, the mind remains absorbed in actions. By this, the bondage to repeated bodies continues. So in the previous verse, there is a mention about vikarma. Tadindriya priti apnoti kurute vikarma. So Indriya Apranoti, Indriya Priti ke liye people perform Vikarma. Okay, let us not perform Vikarma, let us perform pious activities. Karma. One may say like that. So the next one say that no karma, no Vikarma. Both are binding only. So raise above karma and Vikarma. So that's what here Lord Rushabadeva is trying to tell. Then one should perform pious acts. Since pious acts samsara and thus causes suffering, one should engage in jnana, which destroys both sin and piety. So jijnasa atma tattva means jnana. One should endeavor to understand what is atma and what is not atma. And then move on. Dependence on karma or bondage of the jiva. Dependence on karma or dependence on bondage of the jiva is produced from ignorance or avidya. This ignorance will remain as long as one does not inquire about Atma. As long as we don't want to understand that we are not the material body, but we are spirit soul, we remain in ignorance and we are attached to performing pious activities and sinful activities. Pious, sinful. As a result of that, sometimes above, sometimes below, sometimes above, sometimes below, sometimes in between, one continues in the cycle of transmigration. Jnana gnana sarva karmani bhasmasat kurute Arjuna. What would this jnana do? Jnana is like the fire, which will burn both pious and impious activities. O Arjuna, the fire of knowledge burns all karmas to ashes. As long as knowledge does not arise, karmas are not destroyed. As long as Atma Tattva does not arise, karmas will not be destroyed. So that is the understanding. As long as pious and sinful acts remain, the mind will remain absorbed in action. Because of the mind absorbed in actions, there is bondage to the bodies continues. So like that. So Lord is saying that don't think that Vikarma only binding one, even Sakama Karma also binds one. Therefore, take shelter of Jnana. Jnana means Nishkama Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga and Ashtanga Yoga. That will only give one Atma Jnana, Atma Tattva. As a result of which one becomes freed from the material bondage. So that is the understanding. So this is like a repetition of what was mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. So chapter 3, 4, 5, 6 talks about Nishkama Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and then Ashtanga Yoga. The purpose is to realization of one's own transcendental nature and freedom from material bondage. That is the goal of practicing Nishkama Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Ashtanga Yoga. So then he kind of continues and kind of says at the end, Evam mana karma vasham prayunte avidyayatmani upadiyamane pritirnayavan mahivasudeve namuchyate deha yogena tava.
When the living entity is covered by the mode of ignorance, he does not understand the individual living being and the supreme living being, and his mind is subjugated to fruitive activity. Therefore, until one has love for Lord Vasudeva, who is none other than myself, he is certainly not delivered from having to accept a material body again and again.
Thank you. Thus, karmas make both Vikarma and Sakama Karma make the mind fixed upon further action. Since Jiva is engaged in action by ignorance, avidya, having accepted a subtle body, as long as he does not have devotion for me, Lord Vasudeva, one will not be liberated from the body. So if pious activities and impious activities both are not binding us, then what is the way out? The way out is attachment to the Supreme Lord, not to the material body and to the material world. As long as we do not develop attachment to Supreme Lord, attachment to Supreme Lord only develops when we understand that we are not the body, but we are Atma. The first endeavor, first step towards perfection is to understand Jignashaya Atma Tattvam. When we understand about Atma, then we will make an endeavor to understand Paramatma. then we develop attachment towards Paramatma. That will help us go back to Godhead. So like that. How does the mind become absorbed in action? Ancient or recent karmas make the mind fixed in action. In this way, the mind becomes absorbed in action only, either pious or impious. But thus one becomes absorbed in that object upon which one depends. However, the actions of the liberated souls are excluded from this analysis. So normally people are attracted to those objects which they want to attain or which they have obtained with hard work. So they become attached to those objects for the entire life. But someone may say that even devotees also doing same thing. So वो भी काम कर रहे हैं, वो भी कर्म कर रहे हैं, वो भी they are also earning, they are also constructing, and this, that, so many things are there. But in the case of devotees, the activities have a different purpose. What is that? While the jiva is engaged by ignorance with a covering of the subtle body, he will remain with a material body as long as bhakti, which uproots all karmas, does not appear. In the case of others, the karmas does not bring them close to Supreme Lord. But in the case of devotees, whatever activity they do, all those activities are meant to bring them close to the Lord. So the activities that are performed by devotees does not bind them, because they perform all the activities as a service to the Supreme Lord. Such kind of activities will never cause bondage, even though apparently they also look like the activities the outsiders are performing. So it's like that. Otherwise, one will be in the perpetual cycle of transmigration. So like that. Hare Krishna, you are with me, able to follow?
Yes, Prabhuji.
So now, in the next verses, text number 7 to 9, Lord Rushabadeva summarizes what we have studied in Bhagavad Gita chapter 4, 5, 6, I think 3, 4, 5, 6, 4 chapters. And then 10 to 15, Lord Krishna summarizes the middle 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, the Bhakti Yoga. So in that way, we have to see this section. So this one is Bhakti Mishra Jnana. The Brahmavadis are practicing Bhakti Mishra Jnana. They are actually practicing Jnana Yoga, but mixed with Bhakti. They also have Bhakti in that. So what kind of practice they do and what kind of perfection they will attain, that is mentioned in these verses.
Prabhuji, can you please repeat? You mentioned now which sections of Bhagavad Gita are covered in which slokas.
This is chapter 3, 4, 5, 6.
The verse
Chapter
7.
3, 4, 5, 6 is about Bhakti Mishra Jnana, and chapter 7 to 12 is about Bhakti, which will be mentioned in the later verses, verse number 10 to 15. That is about Jnana Mishra Bhakti.
Okay, so 7 to 9 is chapter 3, 4, 5, right?
4, 5, 6. 3, 4, 5, 6.
Okay. And
Yada na pashyati.
yeah, no, continue, Prabhuji.
Yada na pashyati ayata guhe guneham swarte pramatta sahasa vipaschet gatasmrutirvindati tatra tapam asadya maitunyamagaramagna.
Even though one may be very learned and wise, he is mad if he does not understand that the endeavor for sense gratification is a useless waste of time. Being forgetful of his own interests, he tries to be happy in the material world, centering his interest around his own, which is based on sexual intercourse and which brings him all kinds of material misery. In this way, one is no better than a foolish animal.
So basically, Bhakti Mishra Jnana means as a householder, one practices Nishkama Karma Yoga. Then as a renunciate, either Vanaprastha or Sannyasi, one practices Jnana Yoga and Ashtanga Yoga in order to attain liberation. So that with that premise, these verses are spoken. Here it says that when the wise man, Vipaschit, does not see that desire for sense objects is useless, he becomes a fool, and suddenly forgetting his true nature, he attains a house meant for sexual pleasure and experiences extreme suffering. So indirectly, what a Nishkama Karma Yogi should not do, who are aspiring to attain perfection. So that is indicated. So as soon as it is mentioned by a wise man, means he is endeavoring to attain perfection of life by taking shelter of Nishkama Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Ashtanga Yoga. Such kind of person. What does one should do from the beginning? So freedom from karma takes place at the mature stage of jnana mixed with bhakti, not at the immature stage. When even the wise man does not see desire for sense objects such as sound as useless, he suddenly loses his memory and experiences great pain after attaining the house meant for sexual pleasure. Basically, even though understanding that one is not material body, one is the spirit soul, still if one becomes attached to material sense objects, Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha, one will lose that knowledge one had acquired that I am not the body, I am the spirit soul, that is forgotten. So like that. So if one wanted to perfect, one should not become attached to this, like that it is mentioned. Yada anupashyati, when the wise man sees the actions of the senses falsely, thinking the actions to be his alone, he suddenly loses his memory of his true self. So it's like the activities are actually performed by the senses, interacting with the sense objects. In the sense, even the Bhagavad Gita 5th chapter also you see, the Jnani who attained perfection, he sees that the body is eating and body performing all other activities just to maintain itself. I am indifferent to the body. He sees the body to be a different person. That's what the feeling the person who perfected Jnana will see, will understand. Otherwise, if one thinks that I am the doer, I am the enjoyer, then one will forget that I am the spirit soul. That knowledge is forgotten. So it's like that. So this is basically what kind of consciousness one should cultivate in order to practice Bhakti Mishra Jnana. So these are the different things. As a householder, when one is in householder, if one practicing Bhakti Mishra Jnana, so they should see that all the activities are performed by the senses and the body in order to maintain themselves. The soul is only a sakshi. A soul has nothing to do with all these activities. So when one thinks like that, one does not claim the doership and eventually the enjoyership. That's how one becomes freed from karma bandhan. So it's like that. Only when we claim that I am the doer, and then we are subjected to the reactions. If we do not claim that I am the doer, then we are not subjected to the reactions of that karma, either both positively or negatively. So it's like that. And then what one should not do? This is one aspect of what one should not do. And then another aspect of what one should not do is again mentioned in the next verse. Pumshastriya maituni bhavametam तयोर्मितो हृदय ग्रंथि माहो अतो गृह क्षेत्र सुताप्त वृत्ति जनस्य मोहो यममेति.
The attraction between male and female is the basic principle of material existence. On the basis of this misconception, which ties together the hearts of the male and female, one becomes attracted to his body, home, property, children, relatives, and wealth. In this way, one increases life's illusion and thinks in terms of I and mine.
Yeah, this is another principle one should be careful about, like that Rushabadeva is telling. The relationship between a man and woman is called double bondage. This creates illusion for the jiva in relation to house, property, sons, relatives, and wealth, in which one thinks I am this and this is mine. So how a practitioner of Bhakti Mishra Jnana, what kind of consciousness, what kind of understanding should develop? So that with that intention, these things are spoken. When one identifies the actions of one's own senses with oneself, The illusion arising from association with family members is greater than anything else. So when if you remember the Bhagavad Gita verse, Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasha ahankara vimudatma kartaham iti mannate. Actually, whatever we do, those activities are actually performed by our karmendriyas, jnanendriyas, manbuddhi, ahankara, chetana. Only these 14 elements are put into action. But when we claim that the activities done by these senses are actually done by me, that's where we develop attachment and possessiveness to all the people or objects around us. So that is the problem. So the Jnana Marga, this is what is being taught from the very beginning. So one should try to see oneself different from the spirit soul. So in Jnana, by studying and hearing it about it more and more, one starts developing detachment. In the case of Bhakti, employing everything in the service of Supreme Lord, Manmana, Bhamadbhakto, Madhyaji, Mam Namaskuru, Mamesha, Siktante, Atmana, Matparayana. By engaging everything in service of Supreme Lord, not for one's own service, one develops the detachment. At one place by studying, other place by engagement in the service of the Lord. So, but either way, one should develop that particular detachment from the things of this world. So that is the intention. So in that way, we should see. When one identifies the actions of one's senses and mind with oneself, that one is performing those activities, the illusion arising from association with family members is greater than anything else. That means when one says that I am the doer, one becomes attached to things one possesses. So that is the reason. Two knots are tied between husband and wife. One knot is this is my wife. On this knot, the second knot is tied. That is, this is my husband. Though the man may desire to give up relationships, the wife will not give him up. This is the depth of the knot. The double knot means from both the sides there is a knot. Even one want to give up, other does not allow. So in that way. The knot tied between father and son is also implied. Not only the wife and husband, even father and son, friends, between friends and any other relationship. The knots are double knots. So in that way. If one is not attached to a family, but identifies as one's possessions, one's clothing, chair or utensils, vehicle and all, the bondage is not so great. Since there is no mutual bondage. With the things, there is no mutual bondage, but with the people, there is mutual bondage. Because of the mutual knot in the hearts, one falls under illusion thinking that I am a householder and this is my house. Aham mameti. So that actually keeps one bound in this material world. So this will be against for a person to practice Bhakti Mishra Jnana. So in Bhakti Mishra Jnana from the very beginning, one is taught. So you are not this, you are not the doer, you are not that. So there is a kind of detachment is being infused from the very beginning in one's practice. So like that.
Hare Krishna.
Yes,
Prabhuji, this may sound a foolish question, but what shastras do jnanis study? Like, because they are always termed at
Sankhya Yoga. Whatever we study in Bhagavad Gita from chapter 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and also the beginning chapters 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These are the type of shastras the Jnana Yoga study. Studying about the three modes of material nature, Ishvara, Jiva, Prakriti, Kala, Karma in an analytical way is the subject matter of Jnanis.
Apart from Bhagavad Gita, there are some more jnani shastras also.
But in essence, whatever the other shastras are there, the same thing. These are the principles. Like Sankhya Yoga, we have in teachings of Lord Kapila, Ashtanga Yoga, they are all part of Jnana study.
Okay, thank you.
You see, from that point of view, if you see, how many chapters are speaking about Jnana? Almost 11 chapters. Except first chapter, middle 6 chapters, the rest all chapters are speaking about Jnana only. And middle 6 chapters are only speaking about Bhakti. And Bhakti and things related to Bhakti. So in that way. Yada mano Sorry?
I was saying yoga also comes in between from fifth to sixth.
No, Ashtanga Yoga, Nishkama Karma Yoga, they are all part of the same thing.
Okay.
They are one after the other. As a Grihastha, one practices Nishkama Karma Yoga. Then one takes on to renunciation, either Vanaprastha or Sannyasa. Then one practices Jnana. When one comes to Brahmabhuta platform, if they have sufficient renunciation, if they don't want to stay anymore in this world, then they start practicing Ashtanga Yoga and they attain liberation very quickly, immediately, in no time. They are all one after the other, interdependent.
Okay, thank you.
Yada manohridaya grantirasya karmanubaddo druda aslatena tada jana samparivartate sma mukta param yati atihaya hetum.
When the strong knot in the heart of a person implicated in material life due to the results of his past action is slackened, one turns away from his attachment to home, wife, and children. In this way, one gives up the basic principle of illusion, I and mine, and becomes liberated. Thus, one goes to the transcendental world.
So this is the last word in this section, Bhakti Mishra Jnana. Then if one cultivates this kind of principles as a householder, then eventually how one will be able to easily practice this Bhakti Mishra Jnana and attain perfection. So like that. When the knot in the heart or mind, though tied tightly by karmas, becomes loose slowly, then a person becomes free from the bondage between man and woman and with the things of this world. Giving up ahankara, that doership mentality, one becomes liberated and attain the supreme abode. So basically, when whatever being taught in the previous verses, that kind of attachment is not there to the people of this world, the things of this world, one can easily take up vanaprastha or sannyasa, renounced order. Then one will be able to practice full-time jnana and ashtanga yoga, and one can easily attain perfection. So like that. That is the understanding. This verse explains when liberation takes place. When the knot in the heart and in the mind, though bound by karmas of the jiva, becomes loosened by the practice of jnana, that means jnana yoga, and vairagya, by the practice of vairagya, ashtanga yoga, one becomes detached from the condition of husband and wife and eventually attain perfection. Having given up the cause, the covering of ahankara, the cause of bondage, one becomes liberated and attain the supreme abode or liberation. Either one goes to Vaikuntha or one goes to Sayujya. So as per their desire, both are possible. So some jnanis and ashtanga yogis, as we mentioned now, they know about Bhagavan and Paramatma also, but most generally they aspire to go to Brahman, but some of them might aspire to go to Vaikuntha also, but they generally get Sarishti or Salokya Mukti, not Samipya or Sarupya, because Samipya and Sarupya actually provide one direct service to Supreme Lord. Unlike Salokya and Sarishti, the people stay in Vaikuntha but at a far distant, the same affluence as that of the Lord. They may not have direct service. They can serve the Lord indirectly. So these people may not be interested in serving, but if they are interested in entering into Vaikuntha, they can also enter into Vaikuntha. So both are possible for them. So it's like that. So having taught about Bhakti Mishra Jnana, which people in general want to practice, who are attached to Varnashrama duties and then eventually want to attain moksha. The normal practitioners of Dharmartha Kama Moksha line people. Now Lord Rushabadeva is going to talk about Jnana Mishra Bhakti. He is going to talk about the devotees who are aspiring to enter into Vaikuntha and serve the Lord in Aishwarya. They are called Jnana Mishra Bhaktas. So this will be taught in 5 verses, 10 to 14. So we have, I think, 4 verses together. So Hamse Gurau Mai Bhaktyanu Vitrishnaya Dvandati Tikshaya Cha Sarvatra Jantorvyasana Vagatya Jignasaya Tapaseha Nivritya Matkarma Birmata Kataya Cha Nityam Maddeva Sangad Guna Kirtanan Me. Nirvaira samyopashamena putra jihashaya deha gehatma buddhi adhyatma yogena vivikta sevaya pranendriyatma vijayena sadryuk Shashraddhaya brahmacharyena shashvat asampramadena yamena vacham sarvatra madbhava vichakshanena jnanena vijnana virajitena yogena dhrutyudyama sattva lingam vyapohet kushalohamakyam. Yeah, please read the translation.
O my
Oh, my
son, that the
continue.
highly elevated Paramahansa, a spiritually advanced spiritual master, in this way you should place your faith and love in me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You should detest sense gratification and tolerate the duality of pleasure and pain, which are like the seasonal changes of summer and winter. Try to realize the miserable condition of living entities who are miserable even in the higher planetary systems. Philosophically inquire about the truth, then undergo all kinds of austerities and penances for the sake of devotional service. Give up the endeavor for sense enjoyment and engage in the service of the Lord. Listen to discussions about the Supreme Personality of Godhead and always associate with devotees. Chant about and glorify the Supreme Lord and look upon everyone equally in the spiritual platform. Give up enmity and subdue anger and lamentation. Abandon identifying the self with the body and the home, and practice reading the revealed scriptures. Live in a scheduled pace and practice the process by which you can completely control your life air, mind, and senses. Have full faith in the revealed scriptures, Vedic literatures, and always observe celibacy. Perform your prescribed duties and avoid unnecessary talk. Always thinking of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Acquire knowledge from the right source. Thus practicing Bhakti Yoga, you will patiently and enthusiastically be elevated in the knowledge and will be able to give up false ego.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Long translation. So here, if you see, in Nectar of Devotion, we have studied 64 Angas of Bhakti, the 64 ways we are supposed to practice Bhakti with all the different body limbs. Rupa Goswami has described about them. Similarly, Lord Rushabadeva describes 25 means of practicing Bhakti. There are 25 types of daily activities that we are supposed to do in our daily execution of Bhakti. So they are mentioned in these 4 verses. One can destroy the subtle body called Ahankara by devotion to Guru and to me as a Paramahamsa, by lack of desire, by tolerance of dualities, by understanding the suffering of all jivas, by inquiry into Bhakti and the Lord, by austerities, and by rejection of everything except the Lord. One can destroy the subtle body called Ahankara by actions dedicated to me, by speaking about me constantly, by association with the devatas of whom I am the master, by chanting my glories, by showing no hatred, taking others' suffering as one's own, and then by absence of anger and lamentation, and by desiring to give up identity with the house and body, even though it is impossible to give up those identities. So like that, in the 4 verses, there is a mention of 25 items that we are supposed to do in day-to-day life. So we'll try to go through what are the 25 with the numbering. Having said that, one can destroy the subtle body by Bhakti Mishra Jnana. Now Lord Rishabha explains that one can destroy the subtle body by Jnana Mishra Bhakti with 25 parts. This is explained in 4 verses. So those practicing pure Bhakti destroy the subtle body by 15 types of action. The first 2 verses talks about 15. The next 2 verses talks about 10 items. So what are they? One can destroy the subtle body of false identity. Subtle body of false entity. First one, by devotion to Guru. Guru Shushrusheya. So Adav Guru Padashraya. Even in Nodi also, Sri Rupa Goswami says that the first activity is Adav Guru Padashraya. Take shelter of Guru. And then take Shiksha about the Supreme Lord. and eventually we take shelter of the Supreme Lord. That is same thing here. Take shelter of, one can do it by devotion to Guru and by devotion to Supreme Lord, who has taken the form of a Paramahamsa. Now the Supreme Lord has taken the form of Paramahamsa. Lord Rushabadeva talking about himself. So in that way, the Supreme Lord appeared in the form of Lord Rushabha, who is the Paramahamsa. And by lack of desire, Vitrishnaya, without any material desires, by tolerating the dualities. So one should tolerate dualities, that is there. By understanding the suffering of other living entities, having karuna, understanding the suffering of other living entities, and hence not inflicting pain upon others. By inquiring concerning the Supreme Lord and Bhakti, one should make inquiries about Bhakti and Bhagavan. All one's inquiries should be around about Bhakti and Bhagavan. And by austerity such as Ekadashi and Kartika Vratas. So this week we are going to have Narsin Chaturthi, fasting till evening. And next month we are going to have Nirjala Ekadashi. So like that. So many things are there. Day after tomorrow, I think Ekadashi. By restriction of eating and sleeping related to service to the Lord, Vishnu and Vaishnavas. So in our eating, we only eat prasad. We don't eat anything outside. Sleeping also. Sleep early and getting up early morning. Something like that. By being devoid of anything except bhakti to the Lord, we are not interested in other material activities. All activities that we do are connected to our morning program. In order to do morning program properly, we do other activities in that way. One should also associate with the devatas of whom I am the master. That means one should also take take inspiration from hearing about the devatas and who are the devotees of the Supreme Lord, whose Lord is the Supreme Lord. So in that way, one should have no hatred and be equal to all. One should never envy anyone and equal to everyone, taking others' happiness and distress as one's own happiness and distress. And finally, one should control anger and one's lamentation also. One should not be too much angry, one should not be too much suffering. One should have a desire to give up identity with house and body, since it is impossible to give up the identity. So it is very difficult to give up the association of the house and body, but one should gradually train oneself slowly that at the time of death, we should not have unnecessary attachment to the body and family, house, etc. So it's like that. So these are the 15 things which are mentioned in the first two verses, and the next two verses, there is a mention about the remaining 10. Now 16th one is endowed with determination, effort, and enthusiasm. Dhruti, Udyama, Sattva, Yukto. Ustaha, Nichaya, Dharyat. These are determination, effort, and enthusiasm. Ustaha, Nichaya, and Dharyat. So thus one gives us the subtle body. By Adhyatma Yoga. For what purpose one should have determination, effort, and enthusiasm? In order to practice Adhyatma Yoga. Adhyatma Yoga means trying to understand about one's own self and about the Supreme Lord. Divya Tapasya or Jnana Tapasya. That is Adhyatma Yoga. You remember in Bhagavad Gita what Lord Krishna says? Among all types of educations, I am what? Anyone remember?
Adhyatma Vidya
Adhyatma Vidya Vidyaya. That means the knowledge about the soul and super soul is called Adhyatma Vidya. So one should regularly do that. Living in a solitary place. That means living in the association of devotees. Completely controlling the senses, life affairs, and mind. Keeping one's senses, mind, and life affairs in control. Faith in the scripture. So this is like such Shraddhaya. Constant celibacy. Brahmacharya. Non-dejection of duties. So one should not reject one's own duties. One should do all one's duties as service to Supreme Lord. Control of speech. Vacho Vegam. Seeing my presence everywhere. Sarvatra Madbhava Vichakshanena. Yo Pashyati Mam Sarvatra Sarvam Cha Mai Pashyati. By knowledge which produces realization. So Vijnana Virajitena. Jnanena Vijnana Virijitena. So one should always try to understand the knowledge of the Supreme Lord's Divya Janma, Divya Karma, which eventually will give with the realization of the Supreme Lord. And finally, by the practice of Ashtanga Yoga also. We should also do some Ashtanga Yoga practices. in order to keep the body in healthy condition and able to control the mind and senses so that we can practice bhakti activities properly. So it's like that. These are the 15 items that one should practice in one's daily day-to-day schedule. Thus, one should not give up obligatory duties. One should see my existence everywhere. One should have knowledge which produces realization, knowledge more beautiful. One should practice Ashtanga Yoga endowed with enthusiasm. One gives up subtle body. So these are the different things that are mentioned in order to give up the subtle body. Basically subtle body and then eventually come back to Godhead. So like that. So that is called Jnana Mishra Bhakti. Bhakti endowed with the proper understanding of what is what. So it's like that. So by doing this, by following these 25 activities, what happens? That Lord says in the next verse. Karmashayam Hrudaya Granthi Bandham Avidyaya Saditam Apramatta Anena Yogena Yatopadesham Samyak Vyapoyo Parameta Yoga.
As I have advised you, my dear sons, you should act accordingly. Be very careful. By these means, you will be freed from the ignorance of the desire for fruitive activity, and the knot of bondage in the heart will be completely severed. For further advancement, you should also give up the means. That is, you should not become attached to the process of liberation itself.
Yeah. According to the instructions of Guru, Yata Upadesham. Because what was the first item of the 25? One should take shelter of Guru. So after taking shelter of Guru only, everything will be possible. So taking shelter of Guru is very much important. So thus, according to the instruction of Guru, by the practice of this yoga, that is Jnana Mishra Bhakti, with attention, one should completely destroy the bondage created by the knot in the heart, in which dwells all the karmas and which is produced by ignorance. Then one should give up the process as well. So basically, one should practice bhakti along with little jnana. Because this practice of jnana and Ashtanga Yoga, as it is mentioned in the previous verse, eventually will destroy the subtle body. After once the subtle body is destroyed, then give up practice of Jnana Yoga and Ashtanga Yoga. Then one should only practice Bhakti Yoga. So like that. That's how it is. We need to take shelter of Jnana Yoga and Ashtanga Yoga in order to understand what we are not, in order to get detachment from these material attachments. And eventually having attained the complete detachment, one should give up the practice of Jnana and Ashtanga. And eventually one should only engage in Kevala Bhakti. Nothing more afterwards. So that by which one will go back to Godhead. It is like that. One should then give up the practice of Jnana or Ashtanga, by which one destroy the subtle body. One should destroy the subtle body in which the karmas lie, karmashayam, by yoga, that is by Ashtanga Yoga or Jnana Yoga, according to the teachings of Guru, not going beyond that, not by one's own learning or by reading books alone, or by one's own observations. So basically anything that we do, we should do under the guidance of a spiritual master. So then one should give up the method, Jnana Yoga and Ashtanga Yoga, in order to destroy the subtle body, but not the method which is meant for the realization of the Lord, not Bhakti. Because one should practice Bhakti in order to gain the knowledge of Supreme Lord. As I have mentioned some time back, that the Bhagavad Gita chapter 3, 4, 5, 6, they talk about Nishkama Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, with the intention of giving the realization of Atma. That one is not the body, but one is Atma. That realization is given as a result of the practice of Nishkama Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Ashtanga Yoga. And then by practicing Kevala Bhakti, one will realize the Supreme Lord, both in his feature as Brahman and Bhagavan. And eventually either one enters into Brahman or Vaikuntha. That is possible only by Kevala Bhakti after destroying the subtle body. So that is like progressive steps that is mentioned clearly in the Bhagavad Gita. We have discussed this many times in our discussions. Brahmabhutam prasannatma nasocati nakanksati samasarveshu bhuteshu madbhaktim lavate param. Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan yaschasmi tatvatah tato mam tatvato jnatva vichite tadantaram. Having attained the status of Brahman, that is perfection of Jnana Yoga and Ashtanga Yoga, being a pure soul, one does not lament in loss of what he had, nor does he desire what he does not have, and looks upon all beings equal, samasarveshu bhuteshu. He then manifests prema bhakti, mad bhakti labate param. That means till now one is practicing bhakti along with little bit karma, little bit jnana, little bit yoga. But after the destruction of subtle body, after attaining Brahmabhuta platform, after realizing oneself as Atma, one should stop practicing Nishkama Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga completely. Then only what remains is Ananya Bhakti. That is what is called Prema Bhakti. By that Prema Bhakti, by that Ananya Bhakti only, a person know me as Brahman or Bhagavan and then attains me. Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan yas chatmi tatvatah. We can understand the Supreme Lord tatvatah only by bhakti. What kind of tattva? We can understand the Supreme Lord as Tat as Brahman or Mam as Bhagavan. Having understood the Supreme Lord as Brahman or Bhagavan Tattvataha, one attains that particular destination. The Bhakti Mishra Jnanis attain Tat and Jnana Mishra Bhaktas and attain Mam. So like that. That is the understanding. Even if one attains realization of the Lord, one does not give up bhakti at all. For example, Atma Ramascha Munayo Nirganta Pivurukrame Kurvante Etukim Bhakti Mittambuta Unohari. Like the personality like Sukadeva Goswami who already attained Brahmabhuta platform. But just by hearing Bhagavatam, just by hearing the qualities of Supreme Lord, they have given up that Brahmananda and became attracted to Bhakti and Bhagavan and became and started practicing Ananya Bhakti. So like that. So Bhakti always has a position one step ahead of Brahman. So it is only by bhakti one realizes the Supreme Lord either as Brahman or Bhagavan only. Not that by the practice of Nishkama Karma, Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, one will realize the Supreme Lord and then attain perfection. Even they also need to practice Kevala Bhakti after destroying their subtle body by those respective processes. So this is the general procedure which is supposed to be followed by any practitioner as we study in Bhagavad Gita. Here Lord Rushabadeva in a way giving a summary of entire Bhagavad Gita briefly. Hare Krishna, able to follow? Thoda technical hai, thoda philosophical kind of refresh of our Bhagavad Gita understanding.
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you.
Yes.
So having stated that one should follow everything as it is instructed by the Guru. So now next two verses talks about who is Guru, who is qualified to become Guru and who should become Guru. So the Guru aspect will be taught in the next verses 15 to 18. You mentioned that the qualification for liberation is that one should be convinced of the futility of sense gratification. But what about people who want to enjoy sense gratification? What is the suitable path for them? Is it Karmakanda? So there could be a question might come. What about the people who want to enjoy sense gratification? What is the suitable path for them? What kind of path they should follow? So that and also Guru aspect will be indicated. Putram cha shishyam shanrupo gururva malloka kama madanugraharta ittam vimanyur anushishyada atajnan nayo jayet karmashu karma mudan kam yojayan manujortam labeta nipatayannashtadrushami garte. Please read.
If one is serious about going back home, back to Godhead, he must consider the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the summum bonum and chief aim of life. If he is a father instructing his sons a spiritual master instructing his disciples, or a king instructing his citizens, he must instruct them as I have advised. Without being angry, he should continue giving instructions, even if his disciple, son, or citizen is sometimes unable to follow his order. Ignorant people who engage in pious and impious activities should be engaged in devotional service by all means. They should always avoid fruitive activity. If one puts into the bondage of karmic activity his disciple, son, or citizen who is bereft of transcendental vision, how will one profit? It is like leading a blind man to the dark well and causing him to fall in.
The king or guru, desiring to attain my abode, Vaikuntha, in order to obtain my mercy, should teach one's sons or one's students or one's subjects without becoming angry. He should not instruct the ignorant, bewildered by karma, by performing karmas. He should not instruct the ignorant, bewildered by karma, by performing karma. What is achieved by engaging the ignorant man in karma? It is like throwing a blind man in a well. So it's like that. It says that. So why you want to instruct someone in karma kanda? Instead, instruct one the way I am instructing about bhakti. That will be better than instructing one in karma kanda. So like that. That should be the one of the important duty of a father, a teacher, and the king. So in that way. Having described the qualities of bhakti and impersonal realization included in it, Lord Rushabha here explains that the teacher of bhakti should also achieve the goal. The teacher should not be angry if the students are unable to learn. The teacher should not instruct them on performance of karmas in the following verse, as in the following verse. Na buddhi vedam janayet ajnanam karma sanginam joshayet sarva karmani vidwan yukta samachara. This is one verse comes in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3. The wise man should not disturb the intelligence of the ignorant people attached to results of work. Engaging in all work himself with detachment, he should engage them in activity. Here the topic of chapter 3 of Bhagavad Gita is Karma Yoga, Sakama Karma and Nishkama Karma. So the people who are not understanding the purpose of life is to work for moksha, they are only interested in going to Swarga and get enjoyment here. So it is said that, so instead of teaching them about Jnana Yoga immaturely, engage them in Nishkama Karma activities slowly, and engage them in whatever they are doing, and one should inspire them to do Nishkama Karma Yoga, the same activities in the mentality of Nishkama Karma Yoga, so that they will gradually progress. So this is the instruction which was given in the chapter 3 for those who are, the teacher is instructing them in Jnana Yoga. But when it comes to Bhakti Yoga, one should stop them performing Karma Kanda rituals and tell them engage in devotional service. So there are no barrier to teach about bhakti. Bhakti can be taught to anyone and everyone at any instant. There is no barrier that this should not be taken, it should not be spoken, not like that. But Jnana Yoga should not be spoken to someone who is attached to Swarga. So that restriction is there in this Bhagavad Gita verse. So that instruction is meant for those instructing Jnana Yoga, but not instructing Bhakti Yoga. So a devotee teacher can instruct anyone and everyone to start practicing bhakti. So bhakti can be started anywhere and everywhere. It is not that they need to have some prerequisites. So like that. So that's where this will be the quality of a teacher. Bhakti Yoga teacher does not have any restriction. He himself should be practicing. The only way with the restriction is he should be practicing bhakti in order to instruct others practice bhakti. That's all. That means a Bhakti Yoga teacher also should be aspiring for going back to Godhead. And that is the only qualification required for a teacher to start teaching. So like that, Lord Rushabadeva starts talking about the qualification of the Guru. Lokasvayam shreyasi nashta drishtir yortan samihet nikama kama anyonya vaira sukalesha hetor ananta dukkam chana veda muda.
Due to ignorance, the materialistic person does not know anything about his real self-interest, the auspicious path in life. He is simply bound to material enjoyment by lusty desires, and all his plans are made for this purpose. For temporary sense gratification, such a person creates a society of envy, and due to this mentality, he plunges into the ocean of suffering. Such a foolish person does not even know about this.
So this verse, Lord Rushabadeva kind of extends what he said in the previous verse. The jiva who has lost sight of one's own benefit becomes extremely lusty and desires objects of pleasure, creating mutual enmity for obtaining a particle of happiness. This foolish person does not realize is unending suffering. So one who is interested in only one's own sense gratification does not understand that one is putting oneself into perpetual misery. So arthan means visible and invisible objects of pleasure. Nikama kama means one who has extreme lust, extreme desire for sense gratification. They do not understand that they are putting themselves into perpetual misery. So that is the indication. And then what should we do? Okay, this is the Bhagavatam. We have read this verse from third canto. Soham runam shulla sukaya dukkam mahad gatanam viramaya tasya pavartaye Bhagavatam Puranam yada sakshat Bhagavan Rishibhya. For shulla sukha, people of this world, we are put ourselves into mahadukka. In order to get shulla sukha, we go through mahadukka. But in order to transform and deliver such kind of peoples, the great devotees such as Maitreya is telling that I will speak Bhagavatam, which I have learned from my guru who is coming in the line of Kumaras, the Kumara Sampradaya. Lord Sankarshana spoke Bhagavatam to Kumaras, Kumara spoke to Sankyan Rishi, Sankyan Rishi spoke to Brihaspati, and Parashara spoke to me and Vyasdev. So I will speak the same Bhagavatam to you. That Bhagavatam will deliver one from the attachment to Shulla Sukha and deliver them from Mahadukka. So like that. So the only way to come out of this bondage, perpetual bondage, is to take shelter of Guru. So that will be mentioned in the next two verses. Kastam swayam tad abhijño vipaschet avidyaya mantare vartamanam drishtva punastam sagruna kubuddhim paryojayed utpatagam yatandam.
If someone is ignorant and addicted to the path of samsara, how can one who is actually learned, merciful, and advanced in spiritual knowledge engage him in fruitive activity and thus further entangle him in material existence? If a blind man is walking down the wrong path, how can a gentleman allow him to continue on his way to danger? How can he approve this method? No wise or kind man can allow this.
So if a person is like one mentioned the previous verse, how can a devotee compassionate upon delivering the conditioned souls can remain inactive? So like with that mode, the what is the mood of a guru that is being indicated in this verse? What merciful, intelligent, wise person in the bracket guru, seeing a foolish person in the hole of ignorance, will direct him alone the same path, along the same path, as if guiding a blind man on the wrong path. Seeing such a person's foolishness, should one encourage him? Not at all. Who will tell a blind man going to the wrong path to continue on the path? No one will tell him. Especially a compassionate guru does not tell one to perform sinful activities so that one is perpetually bound in this material world. They always tell that please practice bhakti, please take shelter of Guru and Krishna. That is what they always talk about. So that is the mode of a guru. So this is a verse from Bhagavatam, second canto, second chapter, text number 7, which is said that seeing people experiencing suffering from their own actions while sinking in the river of hell, who except persons indulging in material life would disregard bhakti, which concentrates on the Lord, and meditate instead on material objects. So which kind of a person will seeing that this material world is a pools of misery, will want to go and submerge oneself in that instead of taking shelter of the devotees and the Supreme Lord. Only a fool like that. Sukadeva Goswami was saying in the second canto, second chapter. So this is the last verse for our today's discussion. This is also important verse we will discuss and then we'll close for today. Gurur na sasya swajano na sasyat pita na sasya janani na sasyat daivam na tasya napatischa sasyan namo chayadya samupeta mrutyum.
One who cannot deliver his dependents from the path of repeated birth and death should never become a spiritual master, a father, a husband, a mother, or a worshipable demigod.
This is also like very tough instruction. Whenever we say this verse, people ask, I say again, like they ask. He who cannot deliver a person in samsara, he is not a guru, a relative, a father, a mother, a devata, or husband. So these are the duties of a person who want to become any one of them. The only one duty one has to become the master is mochayet samupreta mutyum. They should take the responsibility of delivering that jiva from the cycle of birth and death. Otherwise, they should not become guru and relative, father, mother, deity, and then husband. So like that. If one acknowledges the teacher of bhakti, this implies that others are not to be considered teachers of friends. Teachers are friends. Consequently, they should be rejected. He who cannot free a person who is on the path of samsara by giving teachings about bhakti is not a guru or a friend. Thus, Bali Maharaj should give up Shukracharya as his guru because Shukracharya does not, by this, Bali Maharaj does not incur sinful reaction if he does not offer obeisances and respects to his guru Shukracharya. Because Shukracharya is not telling Bali Maharaj to surrender to Vishnu. Instead, he is telling don't surrender to Vishnu. Such kind of person can be given up as guru. And similarly, Vibhishana can reject his relative Ravana because Ravana told, serve me, not Lord Ram. So Vibhishana gave him up and went to serve Lord Ram. It's perfect. Swajana, Guru ho gaya, Swajana ho gaya, family members. Prahlada can reject his father Hiranyakashipu. Yes. Hiranyakashipu said, you serve me, not Vishnu. Prahlad gave up. Bharata can reject his mother Kaikeyi. Father, one can give up such kind of father. One can give up such kind of mother also. Katvanga can reject the Devata Indra. So when Devata Indra said, thank you, my dear Katvanga Maharaj, for fighting for us. So please tell me what do you want? Except for Mukti, you whatever you want to ask, we are ready to give you. Katvanga Maharaj said, I want to know how much time left in my lifespan. And Indra told one Muhurta. He did not ask anything in Swarga. He said that please send me to Bharatavarsha. Because in Bharatavarsha, he could utilize that time meditating upon Supreme Lord. He came down to Bharatavarsha instantly and meditated on Supreme Lord for one Muhurta time and went back to Godhead. He gave up Indra instantly. Gave up Indra means he gave up the blessings that are going to be offered by Indra. So like that. The wives of the Brahmanas can reject their husbands learned in the sacrifice. The husband said, don't go to Krishna. But they said, no way, we are going. So like that. Another meaning is as follows. He who cannot deliver another person should not take the position of guru. He should not accept respect and reverence. If he does, he incurs sin. So not only guru, but any other position, if we accept that respect and honor and that position without doing the needful duty, we incur sin. So in that way. If he cannot deliver the person, he should not accept the person as a disciple just so that he becomes a guru. He should not accept friendship so that he becomes a friend. He should not produce children so that one becomes father, or one should not bear child so that one becomes mother. One should not accept worship so that one becomes a worshipful personality or devata. One should not accept a wife in marriage to become a husband. We understand that we should perform bhakti and mahaseva to achieve liberation. Okay, so it is like that. We should not do all these things. So it is like that. If the focus is not on delivering that subject, the dependent, one should not accept the position of the master in any one of these forms as father, mother, husband, guru, the devata, or a respectable person, or even one's own elderly. So that is the kind of strong instruction, and if not completely, but one should try to do the needful as much as possible and try to increase more and more. That is the responsibility and the quality of a guru. So in that way. So we'll stop here and we'll continue next week, because His Holiness Bhaktivinoda Goswami Maharaj is here in Mandi. He will be giving class now. I think class must have started, but anyway, I'll go now and join the class. So next week we'll continue from text number 19 onwards, where Lord Rushabadeva will tell that you should always worship a devotee and the Supreme Lord. And all of you are so fortunate that in your family only the Lord is there as me, and a great devotee, your elder brother Bharata, is there. So by serving them, you will attain perfection. So perfection is possible by taking shelter of a guru, a great devotee, and the Lord. That is the means. So like that, the further prayers are indicated in the remaining chapter. Okay. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I have 1 or 2 doubts. I will WhatsApp you.
Yes, please. You can write to me. No problem. So we'll stop here. We'll continue next week.